We're off to a better start today, ish.
I think a lot of it has to do with just how much sleep I got and how well I am capable of dealing with what goes wrong. Because to be clear, as I explained to Brad offline, I can't explain what's still wrong with that computer, only in meat, only in, whatever, but the sound works elsewhere. All I can do is document it and then react to it. And I wish it was something I could laugh at. But again, this is the technology has always failed me problem. And it's, I tell you, 30 years in, I'm getting like, something just work, please.
I mean, works fine for me. Anyways,
It's nice. Well, it must be nice.
yeah, it is ish. Sometimes it
Yeah.
works. Sometimes it doesn't. Most of the time it does. Anyways, Sony announced a bunch of layoffs this morning. Actually, PlayStation did. 900 people. It looks like a lot of it might be related to VR efforts potentially. So
Interesting.
900 people gone or being laid off, which always sucks. So the gaming
I
industry is
feel
such a great first quarter anyways. This is such shocking. I'm just kidding.
sure.
Rough.
If they were smart, they would have blamed it on the Microsoft acquisition of Activision Blizzard, Uh, um, yeah, I think VR is one of those things. They kind of did it. They sold X number of units. It sounded like okay, and it will be like Alexa or anything else
Yeah.
where you find out later. It's like actually, we invested billions in this, and there was no payoff. Or people might be surprised to discover Xbox never has made a cent on hardware for some reason. It seems like, well, come on, they must have been able to figure it out 20 years later. And yeah, not really. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think it aligns to their previous earnings release where their CEO or somebody, their CFO said, we got to improve margins because times are tight. And that's why they're going to PC more often now going forward, it sounds like.
Well, they're doing. Look, Sony has been doing what Microsoft is also doing, right, to a lesser degree, but expanding into other areas, right? And in this case, meaning the PC, right, another market that's roughly the size of the console market. And I don't follow that part of the world as closely. I don't know if people over there are hand wringing and complaining or whatever, but I know in the Xbox space, this is controversial for some reason. It shouldn't be. I mean, I don't know. It's impossible to overstate how much mobile disrupted. I wrote about this the other day in an editorial, and I tried to keep it focused literally just on the communication stuff, but just like quickly, 2007, I brought the first iPhone to Europe, was scared to death of using the thing because there were all these stories of people, because there was no sense of roaming or international anything, and there were no plans for that. And you used to get paper bills, and people came home from Europe with a foot stack of paper bill from AT&T wrapped in a bundle, and then a $7,000 bill because they just sat there and used their phone like they had no idea what they were doing. And so you go from that to today where you can just fly basically anywhere in the world, use your cell phone plan just normally, all your data works and everything. And, not universally. I know it's not perfect, depends on plans and things, but the seamlessness of that is astonishing. And that's just one slice of that pie, that thing, that mobile, it's astonishing how much it's disrupted. So with that and that kind of a background, I mean, think about gaming. I mean, mobile is, I don't remember the number, somewhere between 50, 65% of gaming by revenue. I mean, yikes. Like mobile to gaming is Chrome to web browsing. And that means there's this one thing and then there's everything else. And we exist in a part of the world that has very strong opinions about some of that everything else, and there's a big enthusiast community. Gaming lends itself to enthusiasm, I guess, around Xbox, around Sony, around Nintendo. But these are not the big money, if you will, is in the stuff I think is crap. Farmville and these stupid little jewel games you play like standing in line at the grocery store. But that's
makes money.
I mean, that's gaming. It's kind of a weird thing to say. It's like, I'm sorry. I thought you thought you knew what gaming was, but the thing you think of as gaming is just this little thing. So yeah, everything's evolving. I don't changing at least anyway. We could debate the evolve part, but it is interesting.
Yep. Microsoft also is investing money in more AI companies, which is probably the least shocking news. Although apparently the EU is already like, we'll just keep an eye on that because you can't just go buy up all the competition or invest in all the competition, I should say.
Well, yeah, I don't know what to say to this. So it's Mistral. Is that the name of this
Yeah,
company?
something like that. Yep.
It's small. This is a relatively small investment. We live in a world where I think it was 13 or 15 million euros. I think was the
Yep,
number.
sounds
That's a
about
small
right.
number apparently. It's a big number to me, but to Microsoft, it's nothing, right? So, look, it makes sense for Microsoft to diversify in this area. You're starting to see. I'm surprised in some ways Google hasn't done more, but I think Google probably wants to prove to the world, they look, we've been doing this for years. This is it's on us, et cetera. I think the most one of the most interesting things about Microsoft's AI push, other than the obvious stuff like, oh my God, what the hell are they doing? It's so quick, is that the foundation of it and really the majority of it comes from a third party.
Yep.
I mean, this has to be unprecedented in this company's history. I know they bought their way into markets, buying companies like Vermeer for Front Page or buying PowerPoint back in the day, and these things become part of like this bigger empire, but they bring them in house. OpenAI is very different, but it's just, I mean, I don't know what Microsoft would have left if OpenAI was like, yeah, I think we're done here.
The other
I mean, I know
interesting,
they get to keep work and so forth. I'm just saying, as
yeah,
far as like a percentage of what went into what Microsoft is now offering to third parties. I mean, you saw the Copilot news. They added some custom GPTs, right? Or which are custom chatbots, kind of topic specific.
yep.
One about travel, one about cooking, etc. That's the open AI model. I mean, this product is marketed literally. There's an explicit line when you go to one of these GPTs that says something like, "This is this was made by Microsoft" or something like that. And it's like, what does that mean? Like, is it made by Microsoft the same way that when I tell Copilot to make me an image of 3 giant cloud things, that it creates an image? I'm like, this image was created by Paul Thurrott. It's like, because I described a basic sentence that AI then went off and did something incredible with. Is that what these things are? I'm not sure it's any much more sophisticated than that. It's interesting. Someday these two companies are gonna split,
Oh, yeah.
because OpenAI is going to become the next Google, and they're going to say, "Hey, thanks for the 10 fingers. We got it now. I'm on the roof."
There's another one that was announced, I think, is yesterday by Google, which, granted, their stuff's all in house, but it also lags behind. Whatever, it doesn't matter. It's called Gemini, I think, or
Right.
Genie. Gemini is the actual name, but the feature was called Genie. This is where we all knew things were going. It can generate on demand 2D platformer games. So you just describe the scenario, and it creates a 2D interactive platformer game. Now, they haven't released it publicly because it's probably not as good as the demos exhibit, but it doesn't matter. The fact that they've got it working in any capacity is like, I want to be a tropical island thing, and I'm a commando running to left to right or whatever, and then it just generates a never-ending game. It's
a logical extent. I mean, you could ask any of these things, write me a program in whatever language that does this, that kind of thing. So
it's not a big leap. It's really
this
not.
is a logical extension. Look, like anything AI related, the hope and dream here is that whatever that output is, however sophisticated it is, whether it could be the video stuff we saw with Sora, whatever that was from OpenAI, like it does the thing, and then hopefully there are humans on the other side who would now take that thing and improve it, modify it, whatever, before it's released. Like the running gag with Microsoft was always, you compiled, let's ship it. And we're going to see a lot of that with AI. I think that's the problem.
Super interesting one to a programming hack like myself. And this isn't out yet, but people are working on it. And they were showing, again, demos. Like, don't get caught up in the demos, because just wait 3 weeks and there'll be something better. But what it is you have a screen recording. Let's say you're building an app on Windows. You have a screen recording of your app. You demonstrate the bug that is in the app, and then you give the AI your code base along with the video, and then it can see what the bug was. It sees your code and can tell you what you did wrong, which is for an amateur is
well, I was going to say it's what
huge.
we should want, right? I
Yeah.
mean, think I got it. People who are not software developers wouldn't appreciate this, and I'm not a software, so I'm only touching on the tip of the iceberg here because I really don't understand all of it. But like all along the way, all the things that came to like integrated development environments that first started in DOS with like Borland in the late '80s, probably, or the IntelliSense stuff where code highlighting and it looks at stuff, or just the debugging you can do, live debugging of code. Um, it I mean, in the end, it's like we've been helping people write code as much as we could forever. I mean, I don't want to call it the end game because God help us, but I mean, this isn't this the ultimate? I mean,
We're getting there.
I think so. The trick is, this is like a science fiction, like Isaac Asimov, the Foundation series is about this notion that civilization has occurred and has progressed. It hasn't evolved. It's devolved. We've lost track of technologies. We no longer have people who understand. In the future, it would be like these space drives that can allow you to go light speed or whatever. So these things still exist, but no one knows how they work. Or I talk about this in Mexico City. We walk up and down this neighborhood. There's an interesting combination of really old things and really new things. And the new things are obviously new and the old things are old, but some of the old things are beautiful. There are these mansions that are intricate stoneworks, or around each window there's like a really complicated design, and they're beautiful, but they're also crumbling and falling apart in some cases. So people will come in and buy one of those buildings and they tear down that beautiful outer bit, whatever you call that stuff. And I talked to my wife about this, and we're always like, that's never coming. But I don't think they have people who can do that anymore. Whatever artisans existed at one, it's just cement mostly, right? Or stone.
It's like one of those things that people can figure out, but can they make it sustainable to be? Because like to have that skill and then to make it a career are two very different.
Well,
things.
that's what I mean. Like someone asked me about this a couple of weeks ago and asked Paul, and it was like, should we still recommend to people that they go into programming? And for now, the answer is yes, but long term, it's a little tough. But the thing, like when I went to art school in 1985, Photoshop had started. Computers were a thing, but my school didn't have that. And a couple of years later, a friend of mine went there, and they had computers, right? So I was on that shift, like I was in the wrong space, or I was just wrong place, wrong time, whatever. And maybe if there had been computers, maybe I would have continued down that path. I have no idea. But drawing on a piece of paper, I was like, nope. And I feel like AI is doing that to programming right now. We're on the cusp of this, and I think that you need to understand that stuff. And the trick there is it's evolving. Like you could, as a teacher, you could say, all right, the fall semester's coming up. Here's the syllabus. And then fall starts, you're like, everything's out of date, and it's, so we're in that rapid progress time. It's really weird, but yeah, you want to think there's a guy, or not a guy, a person or some persons who, the AI is going to generate the code, no doubt about it. But you need that. All right, now I'm going to go through it and turn that thing you were talking about into an actual game. That is, not just something you can sit there and play and shoot things with, but is unique in some way, right? I mean, we'll see. I think we're going to see a lot of those games.
I think
so that's the problem.
Like that's the thing is they'll just flood the market, and then there's an industry that's ruined.
Look, for people like us who kind of follow this stuff and we're enthusiasts, we love it, right? It's scary, but it's also really exciting. And I don't know for you, I mean, you're a different generation than I am, but I grew up as a young man reading books about the beginnings of like Apple and Microsoft and whatever other companies, and feeling like I had missed it, like this thing happened. I was just a little too young maybe, or whatever, in the wrong place, wrong time. And then the internet happened, and I was like, okay, hold on a second. Here we go. This is the thing. Like now I can be part of this, like this is a big deal. I think this is bigger. I really do. I think this is bigger than all that stuff, even as big as it was, we don't understand what this is going to look like on the other side. It's crazy.
Right. Because prior to, in fact, we'll just say today, it's not necessarily today, but prior to today, everything was human driven at the end of the day, right? If you want to go build the internet, like a human went down there, plugged it in, typed it up, enter. We're now entering an era where computers are now doing the heavy lifting.
Yeah, I agree with you, and it's freaking me out to agree with that, because it's like process. It's scary.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to go upstairs and use AI probably for, I don't know, a couple tasks today for sure at work. for at
I
startup.
used to joke that, not necessarily this podcast, but I would talk about some whatever podcast and say someday this is just going to be two computer generated idiots, you know. And in the beginning, it will be like
Yeah, the
these
only thing
flat
that'll
life.
change is the computer generated part.
It was only one difference between us and them, and it's intelligence. And it's just, you know, you know, I feel like right now you could do like a nonsense version of this, which is what this is, and then 6 months from now, it's gonna be like, yeah, we're not necessary anymore. You know, like it's that fast. And
That should be our exit plan. We'll just slowly transition this into
yeah, and we'll
AI
see if anyone
personas and
notices.
see how long it takes people to take. Like pick that up.
Exactly. I mean, I listen. I only have 10 jokes. I mean, it should be easy. The LL. This is an SLM. It's a VSLM. You know.
Yeah, we'll save those moments for tomorrow.
Oh man.